Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Ace Attorney. It is time for the Cosmic Turnabout trial. Yes, sorry, I realized I didn't make any kind of post or anything saying I wanted to stream it this time, but I did. But then, people in Kotori Wisp's Discord channel were all like, milkshakes, and I wanted a milkshake, so I went and got a milkshake like half an hour before I intended to stream. And Sonic was crazy, despite it being like 8:30 on a Thursday night. But we have our shake now, and we are here. A cosmic shake, if you will. Oh. Forgot to turn that off. There we go. Ooh. The blowed up courtroom. The courtroom bombing incident. A terrible attack launched by the will of a madman. That incident perfectly symbolized the state of the legal world in this dark age of the law. Mr. Wright brought it to a resolution of sorts. It's interesting that Ted Tone was discovered to be the one responsible for the bombing. If only it were that simple. Somehow I can't help but think. There's a darker influence at work. One that's lurking in the shadows, waiting. That's why I want to review the trial that was taking place when the bombing occurred. And after all, I've got more than a few personal stakes in it. Episode 4, The Cosmic Turnabout. Ooh, anime.
One hour remaining until launch. Please begin your final equipment check.
Check complete. Everything's A-okay.
Hi, Yuri
Ready here
Lowenthal.
whenever you are.
Come in at 2. Come in. Do you copy?
I don't think they're launching. Huh. Well then. That complicates things. I don't think that's gonna be a very effective, December 16th, 9:12 a.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 5. Time for another trial to begin. This one's different. I'm sorry to bother you, but... Oh, hey, Juniper. Are you alright, Apollo? Was I just making a scary face just now? Oh, hi, Juniper. Yes, I'm fine. I was just doing my Cords of Steel exercises. Now I'm all ready to go.
Yes, knowing you, I'm sure you'll be just fine. Oh, I brought you a present from my garden.
Is this a lotus root?
That's right. My grandma said this lotus root is good for your eyes. She says that if you look through the holes, it can't help you, or it can help you see the future. It's for good luck. Maybe later you can cook it and...
Thanks for this. I'm gonna have some right now. Oh, my! Kind of tough, though.
Can't eat it raw, but Thank you for the enthusiastic try.
Oh my gosh, she is so smitten, and it's adorable. I love Juniper. Oops. She didn't think me weird before. She will now. I don't think she cares. So, boy howdy, this girl can knit. Gotta calm down.
Apollo! Apollo! Sorry I'm late. Hi, Athena. Judy? I didn't know you were coming in today. Did you come to cheer Apollo on? Oh, I get it. You sly little thing, you. Athena, stop!
We're getting around, Athena. Trial's about to start any second. Is everything all set?
Oh, Apollo, Apollo. When will you ever figure it out?
Figure out what? Wow, that was the longest sigh I've ever heard. This is all over for me. They're gonna find me guilty. This is our client. One Mr. Solomon Soul Starbuck. So, like, was his hair naturally a rocket, and then he just so happened to decide to become an astronaut? Or did he just, like, I'm gonna be an astronaut, and just went all in on the look? Because given that this is an Ace Attorney game, it could be either in equal measure. It's a very famous astronaut, who happens to be an acquaintance of mine. You wouldn't know it right now, but he's usually really a very upbeat and driven person. The scene of the crime happened at the Cosmos Space Center. Back in high school, my best friend and I went there almost a little too much. But that's where we met Mr. Starbuck. He'd ask about space travel, and he'd launch into story after story with so much passion. Back in those days, the man was 100% my hero. Are you sure you're okay with being my lawyer, Apollo? Of course I'm sure. I know you, Mr. Starbuck. I know you're not the type to commit murder. Thanks, but... I'm supposed to be in space right about now. He's so depressed it almost seems like an act. Launch getting called off must have been a huge shock. We'll probably never get the chance to go into space again. Say that. Don't stop believing. Besides, you just have to go into space again. Yeah, I don't think I could. I don't think I could face Clay in the afterlife if I just rotted away in a cell.
Clay Taryn. Can't believe he was murdered. He was such a promising astronaut under your command.
Yeah, he was a good guy. Always there to pick me up when I was down. No one loved life as much as him, that's for sure. He was always so full of energy, telling me, "You're fine, Mr. Starbuck." How could something like this happen to a guy like him, huh?
I've never seen Mr. Starbuck so down.
He's gone, and I'm going to prison. She could burn up like a shooting star right now.
Mr. Starbuck, you'll be fine.
What is it? What's with the yelling?
I'll get to the bottom of this today. You'll see. And in exchange, I want you to go back into space for you and Clay. Promise?
Does that mean you have lots of evidence to prove my innocence?
Oh, well, about that. We didn't get to investigate the area as much as I'd have liked, thanks to the police.
I'm done for. I'm a goner. Everybody thinks I did it. Thought I was gonna soar like a comet, but I'm just gonna crash like a meteorite.
No, don't say that, Mr. Starbuck. Don't count yourself out yet. I I know it's hard to lose a teammate, but you've got to keep going. And what about you, Apollo?
What about me?
I was just thinking, wasn't Clay your best friend?
Jeez, we didn't even get to meet Clay. We need to focus on the trial right now. Are you all ready to go?
Apollo.
The trial's about to begin. If the defense would please proceed to the courtroom.
Okay, here we go.
This is it. This is one trial I can't afford to lose. Oh yeah, so I was saying, I find it interesting that this is case 4. And it looks like we're going to be mostly in Apollo and Athena's shoes for this one. It's interesting that, you know, this whole game, you know, it starts off with the triumphant return to Phoenix in the courtroom. But he hasn't... Oh, hold up. I see something I need to adjust. Nope, not that. Come on. For the look. There we go. No, not that. There we go. Okay. I think that's good. I think that's got the... Yeah, that's got the thing. I didn't realize that I had not shrunk down the screen on this one and to fit the overlay. But we're good now. Okay. But yeah, we haven't spent a lot of time playing as Phoenix. Pretty much just the tutorial case for it. Courtroom number 4. Court is now in session. Court is now in session for the trial of Solomon Starbuck. Wait, he already had the... Because the court... This is where the courtroom bombing happened. So he already had the eye patch that wasn't part of his injuries sustained from the bombing? Huh. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Excuse me, Mr. Justice? Yes, Your Honor? What happened to your eye? I'm fine. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Are you sure? I don't... I'm fine, Your Honor. The defense is ready. I am sorry, Your Honor. He's been like this since yesterday. He keeps insisting it's just a sty. I suppose it's something he doesn't want to discuss. Maybe he's entering a touchy age. Right, since he's the POV character, he's not amongst them. I think he's 24. And it's interesting, like, Clay's got such a cool character design, and yet we don't. Does he even have a model? Because he died in a suit, we don't see him in the anime. Actually, let's get a look at the... Okay, we just have... cause of death, stabbing. The victim was discovered in the third floor boarding lounge in the main lobby, or in the main building. Very well, and the prosecution. The prosecution appears to be ready as well.
Silence!
Not yet. I'm not quite ready yet. Jeez! He broke those faster than literally. That was quick. The prosecution is now ready.
Well, it didn't take him long this time.
What's up with Blackwell?
Now then, I shall give the opening statement.
Silence.
That'll do it.
You will? What an unexpected surprise.
This time, I can't leave it to anyone else.
I see. Something's off with the two of you today.
You both seem different somehow.
Very well, Prosecutor Blackwell, your opening statement, if you would.
It was just yesterday. Crimes in question occurred in the Cosmos Space Center.
Ah, that famous federal research facility of all things related to astrology, right?
Astronomy. It's astronomy. Anyway, a rocket was set to launch from there. But at 9:28 a.m., before they could even move the rocket into the launch site, two explosive devices were detonated, and the launch was cancelled.
My word, 2 bombs. How dreadful.
The defendant in today's trial was charged with both the bombing and with the murder. One was to Solomon Starbuck. For whatever inane reason, he detonated a bomb on the rocket he himself would be in.
Solomon Starbuck? I recognize that name. Isn't he that famous astronaut?
Correct your boldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of Hat 1 rocket 7 years ago. As you may recall, despite some interstellar trouble, his mission was a success. Some say it was a miracle he returned alive. I suppose you could say he's a living legend.
Oh, I remember now. He's become something of an international celebrity, right?
Okay, so the rocket-shaped buzz is definitely a choice. He has chosen to make his head look like a rocket. Mankind's hope for the future. I've got to make it back alive. The Hat 1 miracle. Come on, captivating space odyssey that will take your breath away.
They even turned the incident into a movie and everything. We've got a real space pioneer in court today.
But even heroes tumble from their lofty heights. Returning to the subject at hand.
Oh, yes. The victim was one Mr. Clay Tarrant, a subordinate of the victim.
Indeed. A loyal disciple brutally stabbed to death by his mentor.
Stabbed to death, you say? You mean his death wasn't the result of the bombing?
Correct. Despite his lofty dreams, the victim was seen as an interloper by the defendant. And so he was sent not into space, but into the universe which we mortals cannot see. Just a second, try out something. Here we go. Play.
I think I've heard enough. The case seems pretty clear-cut at this point. However, there is one thing I'm curious about. That metal box next to the witness stand.
Well, you see, there's a corpse in there currently.
What purpose does it serve exactly?
Said you were so nicely. It's your coffin. What the fuck? I mean, it is someone's coffin. Again, spacing on her name, but the bomb disposal lady's in there right now.
Ugh, have mercy on me!
Oh, just. It's evidence. Due to its immense size, we have little choice but to lay it at rest now.
We shall get to the contents of the box in due time. Phew. Feel like I just lost 50 years off of my life.
Does he even have 50 years left? Inner monologue, Athena. Inner monologue.
Athena. The master at saying the quiet parts loud.
Enough jabbering.
Bobby Fulbright's the name. In justice we trust. Ah, Detective Fulbright. Very well then, please explain the details of this incident to the court, if you would. On it. First, take a look at this pamphlet from the Cosmos Space Center. In it, you'll find a diagram outlining the overall layout of the Space Center. Ah, here we are. For a more detailed look at what's on the left side of this building, take a look at this cross-section that the police have created. See the launch pad in the main building? The launch pad is the square building, and the rounded structure is the main building. Or the launch pad is the square building, and the rounded structure is the main building, right? You got it! The incidents took place at the launch pad 1, and in the main building's lounge. I'll be using this diagram during my testimony. It'll make it easier to understand.
Space diagram added to the court record. Witness testimony. Details of the case.
Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom! Boom! One on the second floor, and one on the second floor of the Space Center's main building, and one on Launch Pad 1. Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were at Launch Pad 1 at the time. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death. A murder on top of a bombing.
I think I need to lower Bobby's voice a little bit. It's been a hot minute since I played. I did finally get caught up on uploading the VODs to my YouTube, so that's good.
Detective, the victim was already dead by the time you arrived in the lounge, correct?
Yep. Thinking he'd sabotage the bombing, the defendant killed him right there in the rocket. Just look at this tragic photo.
Oh my, is that a knife in the victim's chest?
Yes, Your Honor. It's the knife that cruelly ended this young man's dreams. Couldn't get any prints off it, though, because the defendant was in his spacesuit.
By the way, Detective Fulbright, why are the victim's helmet and right glove absent in this photograph?
We had to remove them to identify him, Your Honor. And I personally removed the glove during the investigation. We had to get his fingerprints to confirm his identity, after all.
Yes, it would be very difficult to identify him without a face or fingerprints. Now, there's just one more thing I'd like to inquire about. What was the round thing next to the victim in this photo?
Something so important to the victim that he took it with him as he escaped the launch pad. A capsule that apparently contains asteroid samples. While obviously valuable for research purposes, it has no relation to this case.
I see.
So we know that the bomb in the main building was on the second floor. But where is the bomb that was in the launch pad located?
Huh, that one was on the rocket itself. It's situated around the central part of the rocket. Apparently, the area at the launch pad's elevator was the area around the launch pad's elevator was a sea of flames. I would like to submit this diagram report into the record.
The trial's just started and we're already in a bind.
You get used to it. Besides, that's what the cross-examination is for, right? What the two astronauts were doing during the bombing. That'll be the key. Details of the case. Just checking the thing. Sorry, I had to distracted. Something occurred, and a huge weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. There's in regard to something not related to streams currently. Okay. I guess start pressing.
Hold it!
How powerful were the explosions? Well, the one in the main building wasn't strong enough to bring the place down. But the room itself... but the room it went off in was burned black. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Due in large part, of course, to me stepping up to lead the evacuation.
Wait, what were you doing there in the first place, Detective Fulbright?
Ha ha ha! I'm Bobby Fulbright, hero of justice. That doesn't answer my question. I'll be there wherever and whenever people need my help. I'd go to the other side of the world or even the edge of the universe. I'm not sure he knows how far that actually is. I guess I'll leave that one alone. Admirable decision, Justice Dono. What did he decide?
Anyway, could you describe what it was like at the Space Center at that time?
The bomb cut the power to the central bank. The bomb cut the power to the central bank of elevators and the third floor lounge. It was pitch black in there, I tell you. However, the security cameras and whatnot were running on emergency backup.
And how did the evacuation go?
I immediately and heroically whisked people down to the Space Center's basement shelter. The basement shelter? Yes, there's an emergency shelter beneath the Space Center.
An emergency shelter, huh? Ah, here it is. It's at the bottom of the diagram. The Space Center's pretty impressive to have its own shelter.
Evacuation report added to the court record.
Power outage and evacuation seem unrelated to the murder at this point. Guess I'll leave that aside for now. So there were 2 explosions in total, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Hold it!
Let me get this straight. Mr. Starbuck rigged a rocket he was going to board with explosives?
Huh? What are you talking about?
If the defendant really did plant the bomb on his own rocket, he'd get caught in the explosion as well.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Fine. A simpleton for a simpleton. Fulbright, the motive. Understood. The defendant actually had astrophobia.
Astrophobia? What's that?
A fear of space, naturally. Just the thought of space can cause the afflicted to freeze up. And so, in his terror, the defendant found a way to stop the launch at the last minute.
But that's absurd!
Unfortunately for you, we have evidence. Take a look at these.
What are they?
These are anti-anxiety tablets. Were found among these anti-anxiety tablets were found among the defendant's possessions. Apparently, he was taking them in secret to quell his fears. There were a multitude of problems with the rocket Mr. Starbuck rode 7 years ago. Rumor has it, he threatened to crash a number of times as well. That was, of course, very traumatic for Mr. Starbuck.
Objection!
But that doesn't mean he'd go as far as to blow up his own ship.
Silence!
The defendant couldn't bear to mar his good name, now could he? No, not after the media had branded him so Starbuck, space pioneer extraordinaire. Given these conditions, the defendant could hardly run away from it, like some base mutt.
What, so that's why you think he resorted to the bombing?
Naturally, he constructed this act of sabotage in an attempt to blow up the Space Center, which would effectively abort the launch, but spare his reputation. Now, I'm sure you understand why we have to bring justice down on this atrocious criminal.
Hold it!
Are you sure it was only the two of them?
It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those two.
Well, there could have been someone else inside that rocket.
Silence!
The notion of a third party in Launchpad 1 is utterly absurd. Just to enter the area from the lounge, one must pass through a door guarded by a fingerprint recognition device. And allow me to state up front that there are a precious few with the clearance to do so. A fingerprint recognition device? Sounds as futuristic and It sounds as futuristic and complex as a space center. Actually, it's not as amazing as you think, Your Honor. Take a look at this photo. This is the door in the lounge with the fingerprint lock. Only personnel whose fingerprints are registered can pass through. I see. That is very different from what I had in mind. And is there a record of the number of people that passed through the door yesterday? Yes, there were only 3. The defendant, the victim, and the director of the Space Center, Yuri Cosmos.
Then doesn't that mean it's possible that the director was the one who did it?
Not a chance. He was in the main building when the bombs exploded at 9:28, doing his job directing the launch. Besides having an alibi, he has no motive for committing these senseless acts.
He has a point. Guess the director can't be considered a suspect then. Couldn't he have been the one who planted the bombs, though? I feel like that's kind of being overlooked, but it's okay.
The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. And after the escape of the 2, who was... Oh, wait.
Hold it!
So, while it would appear that the pair barely escaped with their lives, in actuality, one of them had already been murdered inside the rocket. That's the angle the prosecution wants to push, correct?
You got it! In fact, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. If the victim had been alive, he would have for sure tried to stop the bombing.
Is there any chance Mr. Terran could have been killed before he boarded the rocket?
They were both alive and well at boarding time and embarked under their own power. Their hearts full of hopes and dreams of space and blood.
And then both of their hopes and dreams were dashed.
If I may continue my explanation, after the evacuation order was given, the defendant made his escape, carrying the victim to make it look like a rescue.
Hold it!
Who was the first to find the victim? Actually, there were 2 of them. The Space Center director, Yuri Cosmos, and Detective Candace Arm.
That's her. That's the woman that's currently in the box. She is dead now.
One of them was a detective? Yep, Detective Arm specializes in bombings, you see. She and the director were ordering the evacuation following the explosions. They were also worried about the astronauts, so they hurried over to the boarding lounge. That's when they discovered the victim along with the defendant.
2 witnesses, huh? One of them is a detective. Doubt either one would have anything to say that would help me.
I think that pretty much covers the details of the case. Only the victim and the defendant were on the launch pad when the former was killed. This is the truth, that only Mr. Starbuck could have carried out this crime.
Yeah. What little I could get out of him only hurt my case.
Justice Dono. Foolish is the warrior who rushes headlong into battle.
Preparation is an essential element of battle.
So I advise you to take a gander at this.
What is it?
Footage from a security camera. As the 2 astronauts emerge from the bowels of Launch Pad 1 and corridor. The boarding lounge security camera captured their desperate escape.
Now, I would direct your attention to what the defendant is shouldering, which you see is none other than the lifeless body of the victim.
Okay. I know basically nothing about this case. Beyond it's a thing. And I think... I watched some video where a dude ranked every single case worst to best. And I think this one was fairly high up. But I'm gonna call it now. This is my prediction. This is Clay, and this is Solomon. I'm calling it now that because that we're gonna steal Samurai this. You can't tell who's who because they're both in their suits, and Clay had the asteroid pieces. This is Clay. He was knocked out by the blasts. Or this is Solomon. This is my prediction. Clip it if you want. This is my theory.
What?
Order! Order, I say! This lines up exactly with what the prosecution has been asserting.
Should have known Blackwell would have something like this ready. Apollo? How exactly did they determine that Clay was already gone from that footage? I see what you mean. Whether Clay was still alive at this point is pretty crucial. Your Honor, please take another look at the footage. Isn't it possible that Mr. Taryn is still alive here, and that Mr. Starbuck was helping him?
Why, I believe you're right. One man carrying the other to safety, with a beautiful expression of friendship.
Silence.
Perhaps that's what it looks like to a one-eyed hothead and a dotard. But it only makes sense if the body... Yeah, it only makes sense if it's the victim's dead body.
What do you mean?
Fulbright. Explain it to Justice Dono. You got it! Ready, kid? If the murder had occurred in the lounge, someone could have spotted it. Anyone can enter the lounge, after all. But doing it while they were alone in the spaceship, that's a horse of a different color.
Objection!
You can't deny that there's a possibility that the murder could have happened in the lounge. All that video shows is a man helping a fellow astronaut.
Silence.
Your assertion is based on emotion. It's based on your belief that Mr. Starbuck would surely help his own disciple. But you have no logical explanation as to why the victim could still be alive. Unfortunately, Mr. Justice, the prosecution is right. Your argument is lacking in sound logic.
You can't see who's who! It sounded perfectly logical to me.
Very well, Mr. Justice. You have no further objections. I believe it's time to bring this cross-examination to a close.
Objections? Well,
Hold it!
Your Honor, the defense requests a little time to think and regroup.
Given the facts, I'm not sure I see the need.
What is it, Athena? It's just... there's something that's been bothering me.
If it isn't the defense stalling in for time as always. Very well, I'm feeling generous. You may have a small measure of time.
Yes.
You have 5 seconds.
5 seconds?!
After that, I declare this cross-examination to be closed, and a verdict to be rendered. Your boldness, raise your gavel high. It's time for a countdown. Oh! Ready?
We don't have time. Spit it out, Athena.
Only 3 more seconds.
Look, I don't think the prosecution's explanation is very complete. Meaning? Meaning there's something missing. Like, they could conveniently left it unexplained. Something they didn't explain. Something they didn't explain. Ah! You're right. I think I know what you're talking about.
Your 5 seconds are up, Mr. Justice. Is there anything about the prosecution's argument that you would like to refute?
Yes, Your Honor. There is. There's something the prosecution has yet to make clear to this court.
Well, if you put it that way. What is it that the prosecution has failed to explain?
Probably why was the body moved? Because, why not just let it go up in flames?
They have failed to explain why Mr. Starbuck would bother bringing the body back at all. If the defendant wanted to kill the victim, why didn't he just leave his body in the rocket? Why go through the trouble of bringing him all the way back to the boarding lounge?
Oh, that's true. I don't think we've heard the prosecution's thoughts on that yet.
That's because they have none, Your Honor. After all, how does one unexplain something so illogical? The prosecution is claiming that the defendant moved the victim's dead body. But what if the entire premise of that argument is wrong?
Then let's hear your theory, Mr. Justice.
The defense proposes that the defendant didn't kill the victim, he was helping him.
Fulbright, explain it for our sad friend here, before I nod off to his monotone monologue. Inform him exactly why Spaceboy moved the victim.
Huh? They've gotta be joking.
It's simple. Mr. Starbuck did what he did to direct suspicion away from himself. He wanted to create the impression that he historically risked his life to save his partner. That's why he made sure to get to the security camera so there'd be a record. At the very least, he appears to have achieved success with you and the old man.
Then why leave the knife in the chest? Because clearly it didn't work. The average person wearing a spacesuit is easily over 200 pounds, saving the life of a partner who weighs as much while trying to escape deadly flames. What a dramatic sob story fit for the silver screen.
Indeed, I was completely taken in by the humanity of the story.
You see, yet the true ending is that all traces of his hammy act were meant to be blown up.
Yes, and now we arrive at the thrilling conclusion. The third explosion.
Objection!
What are you talking about? There was no third explosion.
Silence.
Indeed, you are correct. That is thanks to Detective Arm. It was she who identified and secured the bomb. However, it doesn't change the fact that the third bomb was discovered in the lounge. The steel coffin beside the witness stand. That would be a bomb transport case. We use that to transport the deactivated bomb here. It was found in the lounge. A bomb in the form of a most distasteful toy.
What?
One on the second floor of the main building, one at the launch pad, and one in the lounge. The defendant planned to set off 3 fireworks displays. Fortunately, the third was discovered before it could be detonated. For it had not, or had it not, the victim's body and other vital evidence would surely have been immolated.
Objection!
Get! Before you utter a word, know that the evidence supports me.
He's reading my mind.
As it is still undergoing forensic investigation, I do not have the evidence on hand. However, know that a peculiar item was found in one of Mr. Starbuck's pockets. Specifically, a bomb detonation switch.
You found what?
I suspect the defendant had no time to destroy such damning evidence. When the Space Center director and Detective Arms stumbled across the murder. So he thought to hide it in his pocket. Feeble brain that he is.
No. Mr. Starbuck would never do anything like that.
Can't believe you just murdered Apollo over. Justice Dono, open your eyes and see the truth. This appears to be irrefutable evidence that the accused set off the explosions.
No. There has to be some kind of mistake. This can't be the truth.
Still can't accept it. You believe your client, come what may? Then why don't you cross-examine the defendant himself?
This has got to be a trap. It's like Blackwell's been controlling the entire game. Hey, step off, Blackwell. I'm the player here. I'm the player here. Eh, it seems like he was waiting for me to bring up the body-moving issue. Why do you say that? Because he had just the right argument when I pointed it out. And to really rub it in, he had a decisive piece of evidence up his sleeve, too. He was trying to shake my faith in Mr. Starbuck and break me down. And making you cross-examine Mr. Starbuck at this point was part of his plan, too? Totally underhanded, but I wouldn't expect anything less from him.
Now, let's hear from the arch-villain, the fiendish murderer himself. Famed astronaut, Solomon Starbuck.
The thing.
Just sending a quick text.
go. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Witness, your name and occupation, please. Solomon Starbuck, astronaut. How did this happen? Mr. Starbuck, you aren't looking very well. Will you be able to give testimony? No. But unfortunately, no is not an option. You are being accused of the Space Center bombing and the murder of Clay Tanner. Please testify to these allegations. Mind if I take the suit off? It's getting really heavy.
Silence.
It's not the weight of the suit that you feel, but of your sins. Prepare to carry that weight for the rest of your life. Banish me to the moon. I don't care anymore. Let me... Not gonna sing the actual song. That got a that got like the entire back half of one of my old Bayonetta VODs completely muted for a while.
Wow, that was super negative. He gonna be alright up there?
He'll be fine,
I think. As long as he doesn't totally give up and say he did it, that is.
I didn't kill him. All I did was support Clay over my shoulder and get us out of the rocket. Like always, I took the elevator down to the middle level and headed in for the corridor. I kinda like that animation, that's fun. Clay had passed out by the time we got at the order to evacuate. I didn't kill Clay. I was trying to save him. So you assert you didn't set off the bombs or murder the victim. But I bet you think I'm lying, right? I reserve all judgment until after I've heard your full testimony. I'm sure you don't believe me. Bet you don't even believe I'm an astronaut.
I don't think the judge doubts that. Who'd wear a suit like that except an astronaut?
I will say that when I saw you in that movie, you appeared to be quite courageous. Oh, I suppose reality never quite lives up to fantasy. I guess I'm just a big disappointment. I really don't care what happens anymore.
Oh no, he's completely given up.
What a depressing fellow. If you were to join me in the clink, I imagine that annoying sighing of yours would rub off on the other inmates.
Like how it rubbed off on Prosecutor Blackwell a second ago? Huh? That was Blackwell sighing? Mr. Starbuck's testimony contains a glaring contradiction. The question is, what does it mean? Even if Mr. Starbuck is my client, I can't be gun-shy now. It's time to find out the truth.
Hold it!
Is that the elevator inside the launch pad area?
That's right. We always use it to get into and from the cockpit.
That makes sense. So he was just using the route he always used.
In spite of the fact that there had just been an explosion.
Huh? I think Mr. Starbuck is hiding something. Something pretty big.
Alright, what do I need to... I'd assume it'd be this? Or the evacuation report? Yeah,
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, I need your testimony to be as accurate as possible.
Was I not being accurate?
No, because it's impossible for you to have taken the elevator down to the middle level.
What makes you say that, Mr. Justice?
Please recall where the bomb went off in Launchpad 1. Also recall that after the explosion, the middle level elevator was engulfed in flames.
Oh, you're right. Which means...
Exactly. The Launchpad X elevator would have been unusable. In other words, Mr. Starbuck, your statement is decidedly inconsistent with the facts. What's with the helmets?
Mr. Command? Mr. Command! Do you read me? Come in, please!
Objection!
This is Mission Command. I order you to pay attention. Stop this nonsense and answer my questions, Mr. Starbuck.
My helmet! My oxygen tank! Oxygen concentration and body temperature declining. Request medical assistance.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Starbuck, we're not in space right now. Please pretending you have lost consciousness and stand back up. I apologize, Your Honor. I forgot I was still on Earth.
I feel like we all just got a real glimpse of the of Solomon Starbuck the astronaut.
Yeah, he seemed more like an astronaut now than when he was doing all that sighing.
Mr. Starbuck, could you please explain the inconsistency in your in your statement? About how you use the middle elevator?
I was nervous and I said the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I actually took a different route, I think.
A different route?
I hope you're able to deliver a straight story this time.
I'll get it right this time. Maybe. No, I mean, probably.
Probably. It's understandable to be nervous. But let me remind you that accuracy is paramount in court.
Horseshoes and hand grenades, buddy. Horseshoes and hand grenades. Let's see. My escape route. What I said before was a mistake. I remember now. I took a different route. Maybe, probably. With the capsule and clay in my arms, I made my way down from the upper level.
So you're saying you escaped without using the elevator?
That's right. There's a ladder that spans the upper and middle levels. I used the ladder to get to the middle level. Luckily, the fire hadn't reached the ladder, so we could make our escape that way.
And the capsule you mentioned. I suppose you mean the thing that was next to Mr. Terran here. Was the capsule that important that you'd risk your life to take it with you?
Almost goes without saying, but yeah, the capsule contains asteroid samples. Therefore, it's invaluable as research material. I'm curious why they were taking it on the spaceship. because I feel like you would want to have that like in the actual like physical research station. Unless they were taking it up to like a satellite, I guess they could have. Yeah. Like something like the International Space Station. I don't know, it hasn't been explained yet, so I'm not gonna assume that, yeah. With a spacesuit on, Clay weighed a ton, but securing the capsule was also important.
I need you to answer to the best of your ability. Mr. Starbuck, please remember that your verdict is writing on your testimony.
Maybe I am guilty after all. I wonder if he can see the stars in prison. Bet it's more comfortable in a spaceship.
Bro, you're not helping. But he couldn't go down a ladder if he had both. It's hard enough going down a ladder with one thing in his like with one arm occupied. I do it damn near every day at work. Taking things up and down like ladders in like the store or like the backstock areas at work. Doing it with no free arms and no free arms and one of them being a man in a suit that weighs over 200 pounds. I have my doubts.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, why don't you just tell the truth? The truth? Let's see. The Earth is blue. No, that's not right. I guess the Earth isn't blue. Yeah, that's it. What? The fuck are you talking about? Yeah, I've got the house to myself of right now, by the way, so I can be a bit more liberal with my swearing. Fuck! The truth, Mr. Starbuck.
The oxygen concentration is super low in this area. Prepare the emergency oxygen tanks. Mr. Justice, the witness appears confused. Please help draw the truth from him.
Mr. Starbuck, under the circumstances at the time, you couldn't possibly have reached the boarding lounge via the upper level route.
Huh?
Not as long as this was along the escape route. I assume they talk about the ladder, because you can't climb a ladder with both arms occupied. To get down from the upper and middle level, where the launch pad and corridor is, you would have to go down the ladder. Isn't that right, Mr. Starbuck?
Of course. It was the only way we could escape.
Objection!
But how would that work? At the time you were supporting Mr. Terran over your shoulder, were you not? And remember, he was in full space gear. As well. Putting him at over 200 pounds.
Well, it's easy on the moon. Gravity is only 1/6 of what it is on Earth.
Objection!
But the Space Center is located on Earth. Short of being an octopus, climbing a ladder with an adult male in space gear in one arm, while carrying the capsule in your other is impossible, wouldn't you say?
Oh.
So, Mr. Starbuck, how exactly did you climb down that ladder with your arms full?
I
love the violins. Mr. Starbuck, come clean and tell us the truth. Now.
Engineer! Where's that engineer? Oxygen leak detected due to faulty maintenance effect. That was a really funny animation.
What the? He's flying the coop!
Help! I'm caught on the ceiling. Help! Anyone? Bailiff, prepare the cherry picker. We must launch our rescue mission at once.
Oh, that's one way to take off while being questioned. I'd rather prove his innocence so he can go into space someday for real.
That might be one of the funniest things I've seen in this game. The fact that they had to get a cherry picker to get him off the ceiling is really funny to me. Well then, Mr. Starbuck, do you think you can keep your feet planted on the ground? Yes, I apologize for losing control.
Are you ready to tell us the truth?
Not that. Anything but that.
What is going on? This isn't the Mr. Starbuck I know.
It appears Space Boy is prone to deception. Witness! Yikes! Yes? I thought your story odd, but perhaps the inconsistencies can be explained as a result of a medical side effect. Prosecutor Blackwell, please! Please don't talk about that!
What are you talking about, Prosecutor Blackwell?
Didn't I already state that Space Boy is, ironically, terrified of going into space? That's why he took some precautions just before the launch. For you see, traces of this anti-anxiety drug were found in his system.
Oh. Oh?
I sense things are about to nosedive. You got it all wrong. I told him during the investigation, too. I don't know anything about any drugs. I never took any medication, I swear.
It's found in his system, but he doesn't remember taking it?
How could that be? Somebody must have slipped them to me. But I guess maybe that's why I don't remember. Because of the side effects. Yeah, that's why I don't remember much what really happened to me.
What? Not sure if I'm convinced, I'll be honest.
Order! Order in the court.
Can't get any useful testimony out of him if he doesn't remember anything. Well, that certainly explains why his testimony kept changing. Why did he just tell me he couldn't remember? I guess he was terrified. Or I guess he didn't want anyone to find out that he was terrified of going into space.
Maybe I really did do it. Which brings us to the answer of our original question. Of how the witness climbed down the ladder. The body was simply dropped from the top of the ladder. Oh my, I see. And then the defendant could come down with his free hand.
Objection!
Drop the body down? Who would do such a disrespectable thing? Besides, dropping the body would leave marks on the body itself.
So you are capable of quick thinking. Yes, you are correct.
Really? Oh, thanks. Ah! What's this?
The oxygen tank from the victim's spacesuit. It's ruptured. I'm sure you can figure out why.
You can't be implying it ruptured when the defendant dropped the victim's body.
I am, for they fracture easily when struck.
Objection!
Even if that's true, the tank's explosion and shrapnel would leave marks on the body. Yet according to the autopsy report, only the knife wound was found on the victim's body. You're clearly grasping at straws with this line of reasoning.
Silence!
Spacesuit isn't heavy for the sake of being heavy, Justice Turner. It includes the latest technological devices and is made of the fabric of tomorrow. This fabric is made to protect astronauts from the dangers of space. So falling a few Earth yards would hardly leave a mark on the
So falling a few earth yards would hardly leave a mark on the wearer.
Objection!
Then shouldn't it be impossible to stab someone through it as well?
It should. And yet, through sheer coincidence, the knife slipped through a weak spot in the structure and found its way to the target.
What are the chances?
You forget that our killer is an astronaut himself with knowledge of how the suit works.
He's got me there.
And now my argument has been proven. Spaceboy killed the victim in the rocket and then dropped his body from the upper level. After climbing down, he shouldered the body and made sure the camera recorded them. There's no room for debate about these facts. It's clear that Solomon Starbuck is the only one who could have killed Clay Tarrant. Ah! Yeah. The report regarding the astronaut's oxygen tanks. Consider it my send-off gift. Feel free to use it as payment and to cross the river Styx. Ah!
Hey, this report is pretty detailed.
The display on the is the remaining. After the incident, the oxygen tank was ruptured and the remaining oxygen was 0%. The tank belonging to Starbuck, who claimed to have carried the victim, said it was 80% full. Tanks were functioning properly at the time. Let's see. The display on the astronaut's left shoulder shows the oxygen remaining. Guess that means these glowing cyan digits represent the amount of oxygen in the tank. I'm done for. I'm going to prison instead of space. Space boy. Yes. Take heart. The bejeweled night sky is still beautiful even when viewed through the bars. You mean the stars as seen from prison? Reminder that Taka is best boy and I would kill and die for him. That's right. Your cell would be your spaceship. Picture the view through the iron bars. It's like being an astronaut in your own craft for all time. That's not a half bad thought.
Mr. Starbuck? Prosecutor Blackwell got him to him good.
Spaceship prison cell. Fly me, my guilt, and my despair into the deepest, darkest space. And then, let's get sucked into a black hole together.
Objection!
Mr. Starbuck, you can't give up hope.
Oh, yes, Apollo.
You know, Clay really looked up to you. He said you were an incredible man, and he said you'd never give up your dreams and passion for space, no matter the situation.
He said that?
So don't give up now, and help me prove your innocence. For the sake of the man who respected you and believed in you, Clay Tarrant.
For Clay. You're wasting your breath. I gotta do that scream because it would shred my throat. Apollo, thank you. I can see you clearly now. The rain is gone.
Mr. Starbuck.
I'm fine now. Thanks for reminding me of my life's mission.
Right. We'll both be fine. I'll prove you're innocent. You'll see. And after that, we'll get you back into space.
Ah! You've ignited the booster rockets of my soul! I am on fire! I am Solomon Starbuck, astronaut, a cosmic hero chosen by the universe itself. This is no time to be whimpering and crying. I can't let you and Clay down. Balderdash. The sun, the moon. Can't count on that, my luck is all spent. All of space is calling to me. Solomon Soul Starbuck. Ready for launch. Begin the countdown. 5,
4, 3,
2,
1.
lift off!
This is silly. I like it. This is fun.
Well, I feel like I witnessed an actual rocket launch.
Apollo, you did it! You broke Prosecutor Blackwell's grip over Mr. Starbuck.
I can't take the credit. That was all Mr. Starbuck. He pulled himself through. You simpletons are done massaging one another's egos. No matter how positive your mood, my advantage remains unshakable. I have but to wait for the final guilty verdict. Isn't that right, your boldness? Gah, I can't let up now. I have to stop Blackwell.
I have to see this through. Mr. Starbuck just has to make it back up to space. I won't allow Clay's dreams to remain unfulfilled. I've got to destroy Blackwell's argument somehow. Think, Justice, think! If the only people at Launchpad 1 were Clay and Mr. Starbuck, and if Clay was already dead at the time and the footage was taken, then the only person who could have killed him is Mr. Starbuck. So the only way to counter Blackwell's argument is if I can prove that Clay was still alive when they arrived at the boarding lounge.
Oh my gosh, is my prediction correct?
I think my prediction is correct. In which case, I should be able to find some contradiction in the evidence itself. Let's see. About this data that we just received. This supposedly proves that Mr. Starbuck dropped Clay's body at Launchpad 1. But if I'm gonna prove that false, then there must be something I can use here.
Enough of this false, your boldness. Let's have your verdict.
Prosecutor Blackwell, you seem to be in quite a hurry to rush the verdict. But about this oxygen tank data you just submitted now. It says that Mr. Starbuck's tank had 80% remaining while Mr. Terrence had 0. You stand by the accuracy of this report?
Of course.
Then I guess it simply means that it's faulty, as evidence goes.
You will explain what you mean, Justice Dono. Oh, I think I know.
It's simple. This evidence contradicts the facts of this case. Take a look here at the detailed description and you'll see what I mean.
I hope you have some evidence, Mr. Justice, because I don't see what's so contradictory.
Yes, Your Honor, right away. This is the evidence that the oxygen tank report stands in contradiction to. Would it be the video footage? Because that would be the 50 there. If that's Solomon, then it would be marked as him having 50 and not 80%.
Take that!
And how does this evidence present a contradiction?
The problem is this part here.
Take that!
Note the remaining oxygen in Mr. Starbuck's tank as he carries Mr. Terran.
It appears to say 50.
Yes, but according to the data, our client's tank had 80% remaining.
The oxygen in the tank increased?
You see, I see Your Honor finds it as strange as I do. It's bad enough that there's a contradiction, but the increase in oxygen is beyond illogical.
Oh my, you're absolutely right. What is going on?
Silence!
I too find it odd that the oxygen and remaining has increased. It would be odd as if any of my rations were to increase. But what does that prove? It doesn't change the fact that the victim and the defendant is carrying the victim's corpse.
Objection!
I'm gonna bet you don't get more rations because you don't abide by the rules. Either way, the oxygen remaining shouldn't increase, just as your rations don't increase. Therefore, this new information is critical. We can't overlook
Silence!
it. In that case, do you have an answer for the riddle of this mysteriously increasing oxygen? You'd better not disappoint, or I'll declare the inconsistency as mere equipment malfunction. Prosecutor Blackwell has a point. I suppose it could be a simple malfunction. Mr. Justice, if you cannot prove an adequate counter-argument at this point, I'm afraid I must bring this trial to an end. So, do you think you could explain why the remaining oxygen level increased? Of course I can. The thing to do right at a time like this is to turn my thinking around. Mr. Starbuck has no memory of it. He claims to have carried clay. So this man with the 50 on his tank ought to be Mr. Starbuck. But, if anything, the display on his oxygen tank should have shown an 80. This is a clear contradiction between the report and the security footage. So what I should be asking is not why did the oxygen level increase, but what had to have happened to make it look like it increased. Am I making some kind of mistake in my base assumptions here? Well, Mr. Justice, we're waiting. Yes, Your Honor. I'm ready to answer. This is why the remaining oxygen appears to have been increased. The victim was carrying the defendants. What if it's the other way around? The other way around? Would you care to explain, Mr. Justice? As you can see, both men had their helmets on in this footage. But, it turns out, this is where our base assumptions went astray. We assumed that this was Mr. Starbuck helping Mr. Taryn. But it was the other way around. It wasn't Mr. Starbuck helping Mr. Taryn at all. It was Mr. Taryn who was helping Mr. Starbuck to the boarding lounge. It was what? Pick up the phone because I fucking called it. Order, order! Mr. Justice! You mean to tell me that the person on the right in this image is the victim, Clay Taryn? It's the only way the riddle of the increasing oxygen level can be solved, Your Honor. At this point in time, the remaining oxygen in the victim's tank was at 50%. And when the victim was found in the boarding lounge, his tank was at 0%. It's right. There's nothing contradictory about the oxygen level decreasing. This means Mr. Taryn was alive as they made their escape to the lounge.
Silence!
How short your memory is. Have you forgotten what you yourself proposed? Even if the victim was alive at this point in time. How did he descend the ladder with his arms?
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, you can't hurt me with a broken blade. Excuse me. It's true that we don't know how they got down the ladder, but I suppose that matter needs further investigating. But what we have proven is that Mr. Taryn was alive when he reached the boarding lounge. This fact alone shatters your claims, and opens up the possibility that the victim could have been killed by a third party. There were two people who claimed to be the first one on the scene. But can we truly trust their statements? Let's see. The two people were Detective Candace Arm
Yuri Cosmos, right? You think that one of them might have given a false statement to the police?
Yes, it's certainly possible.
We might have to do a little more digging.
It seems we'll have to hear a testimony of these first two people on the scene.
Score!
Come to think of it, Detective Arm should be here in the court right now. Bailiff, could you please show Detective Arm to the stand?
Oh.
I have an announcement, everyone.
What is the meaning of this? We're in the middle of a trial here.
But please remain calm and listen carefully. Someone has reactivated the bomb.
Oh.
The bomb was defused, but it's about to explode.
Load?
That's how people talk.
A bomb? Now?
Ah, everybody run!
Eek! I don't want to die. Oh no, everybody's panicking.
Silence.
Head is chased with the death wish, the lot of you. Calm yourself as afore all else.
Come on, Apollo. Let's get out of here. What about Mr. Starbuck's dream? And who will carry out Clay's final wish? I don't care what happens to me. I'm not letting some bomb blow up the truth forever. I refuse to let things end here. Apollo, this is no time to be dramatic. If we don't get out of here, we're gonna die. Come on, this way. Hey, ouch, let me go. Apollo! Juniper, she hasn't evacuated yet. Eek! Juniper, are you alright? Apollo, no, not that way. Ah! God damn. Well, shit.
I need to look at a thing real quick, because I don't know.
Trying to think. Because I've only been streaming an hour and a half. Again, let's go ahead and do this first investigation segment. In the middle of the Space Center bombing trial, we had another bombing incident. This one destroyed courtroom number 4. Furthermore, Apollo suffered massive injuries from being there when the bomb went off. Unfortunately, Juniper Woods was fingered as the courtroom bomber. Athena and I knew she had to be innocent, so we took her case on. We managed to clear Miss Wood's name. But Apollo sustained further injuries when he was attacked by a Ted Tonate. December 19th, 3:21 p.m. Write Anything Agency.
Apollo's a tough guy. But this is taking its toll on him.
Yeah, poor guy. Being attacked by Tonate like that on top of all his other injuries. Apollo was resting at the nearby Hickfield Clinic. Oh god, I'd rather die. I've had some experience with that place myself. What an awful turn of events. Never thought he'd land in a hospital of all places. You must miss him too, huh? Now that you don't have anybody to tease. Don't worry, he's young. He'll heal quickly, and be back before you know it. It's been a while since I last saw Trucy look so down. We won the court case, yet nobody feels much like celebrating.
Alright, enough of this, people. This is no time to be moping around. Now dry those eyes, both of you.
You're the only one who's crying, Athena.
Technicalities. Look, we have work to do. We have to take over.
Take over what exactly?
Apollo's Space Center case, of course. As no verdict's been reached, there's still a chance. I agree with Athena. We should pick up Mr. Starbuck's defense. We have to avenge our fallen comrade. Right, Daddy?
Apollo hasn't exactly fallen. He's still alive, you know.
Good. Now that that's settled, let's get going. Come on, we gotta run.
Wait, right now?
Now?
Or wait, right now? You better not be running the whole way. There she goes. I'd better catch up. Can you take care of the office, Trucy?
Sure thing, Daddy. Let's be careful out there. In the meantime, I'm gonna bake some cookies and fill up my magic panties for you.
Trucy seems to be feeling a little better. Can always count on Athena to perk everybody up with her enthusiasm.
Oh, she's back. Don't mind me, just forgot a few things. Wallet, phone, documents, my bag.
Sounds more like you forgot everything. I can always count on Athena for that too.
Alright, you two. Let's be careful out there.
December 19th, Detention Center, Visitors Room. Actually, let me get a look at something real quick. I'm curious. Okay. Interesting. So we're looking at like a map, like a kind of a road map of this trial. It's only got one investigation day, but 3 trial days technically, because the second trial is split into two things. That's an interesting way of doing things, because, you know, obviously we jump right into the trial. We don't have any kind of, like, thing where it's like, hey, here's my buddy, Clay. How you doing, Clay? I'm doing great, Apollo. Oh, no, now I'm dead, kind of deal. Where, like, you meet you have, like, preamble leading up to, like, an investigation, and then you have your trial, and then further investigation, and then go back to the trial. So this is an interesting way to do it, because normally, like, Phoenix Wright, as good as the game is the franchise is, very much has a formula that it likes to stick to. So the fact that this game has gone out of its way to very much step away from those conventions, what with the fact that it's got, like, the very non-linear story, like, with everything, like, I think we're pretty much now officially kind of, like, close to the, like, the point where things left off. We haven't gotten to the point where Apollo goes on leave of absence, but now we're chronologically finished with Turnabout Countdown. So that's interesting. Turnabout Countdown took place Yeah. Yeah, interesting. This game is very, very interesting in how it goes with the typical Ace Attorney formula. Client is one Solomon Starbuck. So famous, even I've heard of him.
That's right. He's a super famous astronaut who works at the Cosmos Space Center. He was actually up in space 7 years ago.
You seem to know quite a bit about him. Now I'm all excited to meet the man. Wow. That was the longest sigh I've ever heard. Apollo told me all about you. You're Phoenix Wright, Apollo's mentor, right? Yes, that's right. Huh. Mentor has a nice ring to it.
Don't worry about a thing, Mr. Starbuck. Mr. Wright and I have got you covered.
And you're the new kid that Apollo told me about. Wait, don't I know you from somewhere?
Huh? You mean, other than your trial? I don't think so.
Where'd all that spunk go? Just a second. Guess so. My mistake. My memory isn't what it used to be. My mind and body are kaput. Same goes for my life. I mean, I'm so astronomically unlucky that I had a bomb go off in the middle of my trial. Trying to defend me would be like trying to enter the stratosphere without a spacecraft. Yikes. He's seriously gotta stop depressing himself.
Cheer up, Mr. Starbuck. Besides, that thing you said about entering the stratosphere? That just means we'd shine like a shooting stars, right?
Like shooting stars, huh? You know, you're right. Why didn't I think of that? After all, that's what we're all put on this earth to do, right? To shine like stars. Guess I shouldn't mention the fact that shooting stars burn out in a flash. Oh yeah, here we go! 3, 2, 1! To the stratosphere and beyond! Yeah, feel alive now. You can go ahead and ask me anything you want. Is that really all it takes? So, you have no memory at all of the incident? I'm so ashamed. My memory of the time is as black and clouded as a dark nebula.
Still, it's strange you don't remember a thing. Are you sure you didn't take one of those anti-anxiety pills like they said in the trial?
It is true, I developed a fear of space because of what happened 7 years ago. I was taking medication secretly every now and then when my anxiety got bad. Having a fear of space is not something an astronaut can brag about, you know? Oh, so that so-called Hat 1 miracle? That must have been a terrifying experience. But I'm still an astronaut at heart, come what may. I would never take drugs that might impede my performance just before a launch. That launch meant everything to me. That's more certain than the theory of relativity. He seems like a completely different person now. This is the face of the astronaut I know.
But the tranquilizers were found in your system.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know why. I'm done for.
If you didn't take them, then maybe somebody slipped them to you?
Exactly. That's what I thought. It must have been the real culprit. My medication was in my locker. Anybody could have gotten their hands on it.
Maybe the real culprit also planted the detonator switch in your pocket.
Yeah, that's gotta be it. I've been framed. I'll say, they even managed to plant your print on the switch before slipping it in. It's a real possibility. Do you remember anything that might be relevant? Anything at all, no matter how small. Like about the murder weapon, for example. That knife. I think it came from the Space Center's utility kits. Utility kits? Yeah, staff who work on machinery a lot are given these special toolkits to use. All the technicians have them, so I doubt you could prove whose knife it is. Utility knife. As I recall, your last trip into space was 7 years ago, right? That's right. It was a pretty rough experience. During that mission, we had all kinds of problems with the craft. You did? What kind of problems? Power failure, oxygen leakage, busted radio, cracked windows, loose control column. The heat shield came off as we were entering the atmosphere. I thought it was a goner. But I managed to make it somehow with popsicles and ice packs from the freezer.
No wonder they dubbed it the Hat 1 miracle. It's a miracle you made it back.
Space is a boundless place. That's why it continues to capture people's imaginations. But the vastness of space shows us how insignificant we are in the scheme of things. The darkness just goes on and on forever, and ever, and ever, without end. There was nobody else there. Nobody was gonna come save me. I was all alone. All alone, with nothing to listen to but the sound of my own breathing and heartbeat. I kept scrambling to make repairs, but I couldn't keep my hand from shaking. That's terrifying. That is legitimately terrifying. Genuinely massive respect to astronauts. Like, that is not a career path I think I could go into. Just the amount of crazy testing that you need to go into to get it. Like, no, I don't have the stamina for it or that kind of stuff. I feel like I would pass out in some of those tests. anything. Whew, yeah. An experience like that would make anybody afraid to go up into space.
The experience you had, weren't you dreading this mission?
What? No way. Of course not. Even now, I want to go up into space so bad I can barely stand it. I want to shake off Earth's gravity and escape velocity and spin around weightless.
But you have to admit, it was pretty harrowing. Weren't you even a tiny bit afraid?
I was afraid. Of course I was. Still am. But space is man's final frontier. An unknown world. The cosmic truth is out there waiting for us somewhere. The cosmic truth, huh? I guess there are people looking for the truth in every walk of life. No matter how afraid I am, I'm sure I can manage. If I give in to my fear, I'll never find the truth. As long as I don't give up, I can keep up the fight.
That's a really neat.
I like that they're not... Yes, I am absolutely terrified to go up there nowadays. Like, dude has genuine real trauma, and they're not like, yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. But at the same time, he still loves space and wants to explore space, even if he's scared of it now. Like, I really like that. I like this guy. I think he's a really cool character. One thing's for sure, Mr. Starbuck's passion for space is undeniably the real deal. Now, it's like, growing up, I wanted to be a zookeeper, and I've shifted away from that. But it's one of those things of, if something happened and I got, like, attacked by an animal at the zoo, I would probably be very scared of that animal. But at the same time, I don't think that would all of a sudden make me never want to be a zookeeper again. You know, back when that was my dream. Like, you know, getting attacked by a tiger on the assumption that I didn't die from it, like, I would want to go back and work at the zoo still. I would probably have and be afraid of the tigers, but I would still be passionate for, you know, animals and the like. So I like this mindset that they're going with. Oh, hold up, I'm gonna do a thing. I'm just gonna do a tweet thing. There we go. Just had to do a thing. The victim, Clay Terran, was kind of like your protege, wasn't he? Well, it wasn't a big exaggerated deal like Master and Apprentice or anything like that. But Clay did think of me as his mentor. The mentor and the protege. What a combination they must have been. With his encouragement, I knew I could get over my fear and go back into space. But now...
Clay must have been very encouraging, huh?
Yeah, it's funny, really. Whenever I'd hear him shout, "You're fine!" I always got the feeling everything really was gonna be just fine.
You're fine. Apollo says I'm fine, and you're fine all the time too. And I always feel encouraged too whenever I hear him shout it.
Yeah, Clay and Apollo were best buds. They used to come visit the Space Center a lot, ever since they were high school kids. One day out of the blue, Clay even told me he wanted to be my protege. Those two hung around the Space Center so much they were like a part of the staff. One time during Zero-G training, I started to panic a little bit, and the two of them took turns shouting, "You're fine," over the radio. It was a simple thing, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. So I'm fine and you're fine were like Apollo and Clay's secret phrases, huh? Wish I could ask Apollo about Clay and their relationship now.
Speaking of Clay, how do you suppose he climbed down the ladder with you over his shoulder?
Sorry, but I can't even begin to imagine. But he actually did climb down the ladder, so a way has to exist. For the freedom of space to the walls of a cell. That prosecutor said the dark night sky isn't half bad through barred windows.
You're fine. Solomon Soul Starbuck is fine. Everything is gonna be alright.
Huh?
And Athena Sykes is fine. Come on, Mr. Wright, you too.
Do I really have to? Phoenix Wright is fine.
I can't hear you!
Phoenix Wright is fine!
We'll get you back into space yet, Mr. Starbuck. Believe in your innocence and have faith in us.
Apollo believed in you wholeheartedly, and that's good enough for me. I believe in you too. Thank you. Thank you. Both of you. I'll put my faith in you. And I vow to make it back into space. All I need first is a not guilty verdict. Sure feels nice to reassure ourselves every now and then. And that we're all fine.
Okay, Mr. Wright. Let's get to our investigation of the Space Center started. Pronto.
Good idea. Let's go. December 19th, Cosmos Space Center. Entrance. Oh, I was wondering what kind of place this Space Center would be. Almost looks like an amusement park of the future.
Yeah, did you know they even let the public in to see their rockets up close? So check it out. Look how brightly the Gyaxia logo shines in the sunlight above the entranceway. I really dig the stars and rocket motif it's got going.
Gyaxia, huh? Isn't that the new name of the Federal Space R&D program?
Yeah, but I wonder what in this strange acronym.
I wonder what
GYA is supposed to stand for. Galaxy?
If that were it, then the whole thing would be something like Galaxy Exploration Agency. Which, if you ask me, I'd have abbreviated to GAXA or even Gaia.
I guess so. Oh, I know. Maybe the person who came up and put the name just really likes the letter Y.
This exchange is beginning to feel oddly like deja vu.
Anyway, this place is more than just a research facility. It's also a tourist attraction.
Tourist attraction? Don't make me laugh. It's a monument to the human race. I don't know who this is. Electric scooter, full speed ahead. The image of this like hyper serious admiral looking dude with the on the fucking Segway. That's really funny.
Look upon me and look well. Behold the great power of the space science.
Pardon me, but you are...
My glorious name is Yuri Cosmos. I am the director of the Cosmos Space Center, and the center of the cosmos.
Boss, that was pretty groan-inducing.
This person is the Space Center's director, then that means...
Aha! So you were one of the first to discover Clay's body, weren't you?
You know, I saw Candace's arm in the, ba-ba-da-ba-da. In like the character listing for the things, but she really just is just there to be the like just there for basically not even a cameo. Yeah. Her corpse is just sitting there in the in the thing.
That is correct. I was honored to be the very first man in all of space and time to discover the body. Let us talk of the incident. Are you by any chance the space police?
Can't believe it. It's Seth MacFarlane's Space Force. Or the Space Police from Happy Science. I can't believe it. Ryo Okawa has I can't believe that Ryoho Okawa helped write this game. You can't tack the word space onto just any old thing, you know. Tell that to Ryoho Okawa. We're Mr. Starbuck's lawyers. We're here to investigate his case.
Oh, and we're Earth lawyers, by the way.
Ah, I see. Yes, I've heard about you. In any case, by my esteemed privilege, I grant you permission to investigate. I trust you are appropriately grateful. Now, go ahead, have at it.
I can already tell he's gonna be nothing but trouble.
Don't let him hear you say that, or you'll see what trouble really is. Just be professional and ask him about what... And he found the body, okay? So, as director, what do you do here at the Space Center specifically?
Defend peace across the galaxy and promote space development in this country. No matter what obstacles stand in our way, we keep going for the sake of mankind.
I believe I used the word specifically in my question.
Attention all personnel. To your break stations. Prepare for break.
Oh, I get it. You just wander around and tell people what to do in a self-important manner.
That is exactly right. Because I am an important man. and my manner is important.
Mr. Wright, this man doesn't get sarcasm.
Well, there's bound to be some people like that. Here in the boundlessness of space. What's that? You want to know what it is that makes me important specifically? Very well. I will tell you. I was the central figure of the Hat 1 project. You may now proceed to be appropriately impressed. Now, go ahead, have at it. I'd be more impressed if I knew what he did for it specifically. Could you tell us about what you know about the incidents from the other day? I refuse. What? Explaining is a job for common folk. It is not the director of the center of the cosmos. My testimony, which will go down in space history, will be heard in the courtroom.
What? So, does that mean you'll be taking the stand tomorrow?
That is correct. I will be the most glorious witness in the history of mankind.
Excuse me. That title goes to Polly the Parrot. And I will not have you besmirch her good name. I'm not sure if he really understands what being a witness is all about. Looks like the director Cosmos is the type that only talks about what he wants to talk about. And let's at least try to ask him about the things he might be willing to open up about. The Hat 1 project, it was a rocket that was launched into space 7 years ago, correct? And despite numerous problems, it somehow made its way back home.
I suppose it is part of my job to educate ignorant young folks like you. Very well. I will impart to you the complete story of the Hat 1 project.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hat 1's noble mission was to collect samples from an asteroid, and Mr. Starbuck was the pilot for that flight. Eventually, the Hat 1 reached its planned orbit, from where it launched the Hope probe towards the asteroid belt. From there, the Hope probe began its long and lonely journey to the far reaches of space. Then, after a terrifying struggle, the Hat 1 returned safely to Earth. That struggle was when the incident known as the Hat 1 miracle occurred.
That struggle was when the incident known as the Hat 1 miracle occurred, right?
Correct. And it truly was a miracle. Of course, they just had to turn the ordeal into a movie. As for the Hope probe, it did eventually arrive safely at its destination. It obtained a few samples from the asteroid and returned to Earth but a few days ago.
So what kind of samples were they? What's in them?
The samples are scheduled for analysis in the near future. We haven't had time since they just came back the day before Tarrant's murder. Regrettably, we've had no time to inspect the samples due to everything that has occurred. But this puts our space development program ahead of other countries by several years.
That's quite impressive. Guess this guy isn't just a loudmouth braggart after all.
In the golden age of space development, our predecessors were successful in bringing a moon rock back. That is the greatest achievement in the history of this space center. The public fell in love with space, and all of its glorious potential.
A moon rock, huh? I remember that being big.
Our endeavors with the moon rock live on, and in our work with those asteroid samples. I want to bestow new hopes and dreams for the future upon mankind once again. That is my mission, as a man who stands at the center of the cosmos.
Dude thinks the universe literally revolves around him.
I hear lots of research into moon rocks and stardust from asteroids these days. You say the results could potentially have a huge impact on all of civilization. It's like we're in a new space race with every other country out there.
What? Bite your tongue. It's not for anything so base as money or politics. It's all for the brilliant future that awaits mankind. And all for my illustrious mission. With the recent budget cuts, my staff tells me finances are tight. But I won't hear it.
I guess even a space program has to watch its budget. By the way, you seem awfully knowledgeable about this kind of thing, Athena. Huh? Well, you know, I thought I'd better brush up for the case.
Is that so? But then you can't see Widget.
Well, I will be on my way. As you can see, I'm a very busy and very important man. Galactic Scooter, fire up the main engine, max battle speed, and engage!
That thing is surprisingly fast. I guess we better get going too.
You bet. Let's make it so. Ha!
But honestly, I would like to continue. But I think this is a good spot to... save and call it for now. Because it's coming up on midnight and I'd like to have about half an hour to just chill before bed. So we're going to go ahead and call it here. For now. And then I will be back tomorrow. Oh, with probably more of this, I think. This is turning out to be really interesting. I am quite liking this. But for now, let's see. Yeah. Anyone alive right now? Let's see. Celine, Sinus. And I think we're just gonna end it here for tonight. But you guys have a great rest of the night. I will see you guys tomorrow. And goodbye. I will never be good at intros. It's just always going to be terrible intros. Farewell.